Right, good evening everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the South Ribbles Cabinet, Wednesday the 24th of June, 6 p.m. This is the first virtual meeting of the Cabinet. For those that don't know me, my name is Councillor Paul Foster. I'm the leader of the Council and the chair of tonight's committee. Councillor Mick Titherington is the vice chair and deputy leader. Also present with me in Leyland are the officers and the Shadow Cabinet have also been invited to dial in and support the meeting. At this time, this is the first time we've conducted a virtual cabinet meeting, so please do bear with us. Please note that this is an audio and video meeting. It is being recorded and the stream will also be live on YouTube until we move on to the exempt reports. The web address for this is displayed on the agenda for the meeting and can be found on the Council's website. The YouTube stream will end when we go into part 2 of the agenda. However, the meeting will still be recorded and can be provided to any member of the Council not on the Cabinet who is interested. Members are asked to keep their microphone on mute and only unmute when they wish to speak. If you do not mute yourself, the moderator will do this for you. However, when you wish to speak, you will need to turn on your microphone. Members and officers are present in the shield room are also asked to ensure that they keep their computers on mute unless they are speaking. And this is to avoid any feedback. Reports, as usual, will be presented by the relevant portfolio holder, after which I will bring the application into Cabinet, or the report into Cabinet, sorry. If any member of the Cabinet wishes to speak on a report, you should unmute your microphone and say your name, or use raise the hand feature or the chat function, or as we're all sat together, just say you'd like to speak. I'll bring you in, as always, in order. After Cabinet has considered the reports, we will invite comments from the Shadow Cabinet, after which I will read out any representations made by members not on committee or members of the public. If the technology fails for any member on Cabinet, then I will adjourn the meeting for several minutes to try and resolve the issue, or if that is not possible, a new date and time may have to be set for the meeting. Please can I ask all members on Cabinet to confirm they can see, hear and speak before the meeting begins. I will call out each member alphabetically. So first, Councillor Aniela Belinsky-Gelder.
Yes, I can, if I'm unmuted and people can hear me, but I can't see myself live. I can only see a photo.
Councillor Bill Evans.
Yes, Chair, I can see in here, and I've got a video up as well.
Okay. So just before we go on, there are a couple of members that can't see. Do we know why that is? Okay, we'll have a look into that now. Councillor Sue Jones.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thanks, Sue. Councillor Mick Titherington.
Yeah.
And finally, last but not least, Councillor Matthew Tomlinson.
Yes, thanks, Leader. Happy to confirm that I can hear everything.
And the officers that are present, Gary Hall, Interim Chief Executive.
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
Chris Sinnott, Deputy Chief Executive.
Yes, I can hear and see.
Chris Moyster, Director of Governance and Monitoring Officer.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear. Thank you.
James Thompson, Deputy Director of Finance.
Yes, I can see and hear. Thank you.
I didn't hear him then. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, thanks, James. Jennifer Mullin, Director of Neighbourhoods and Development.
Yes, I can see and hear.
Thanks, Jen. Jonathan Node, Director of Planning and Property.
Yes, Chair.
Dave Whelan, Shared Services Legal Lead and Deputy Monitoring Officer.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear.
Thanks, Dave. And finally, Darren Cranshaw, Assistant Director of Scrutiny and Democratic Services.
Yes, Chair, thank you.
Good. We now then formally open the meeting. So there'll be any apologies we have none received, and I do actually believe the entire Cabinet's present, so good. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. As this is a virtual meeting, if a member has a pecuniary interest, they're requested to leave the meeting completely rather than just mute their microphone. The member can rejoin the meeting following the completion of the item in question. Do we have any declarations of interest? Good. Okay, agenda item 3, moving on. Minutes of the last meeting. The minutes of the last meeting, formal meeting, held on Wednesday, the 12th of February 2020, attached to be signed as a correct record. Do I have any comments from anyone on the minutes, and do I have a seconder? Any comments? No? Any comments from anyone not on committee from the Shadow Cabinet?
No, we have no comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Margaret. Okay, we have them. Secondly, can we all vote, please? Accepted. That's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 4, suspension of Standing Order 33. Members are asked to approve the suspension of Standing Order 33, which is the participation by the public at meetings of the Cabinet, committees and subcommittees. This is something that as a Cabinet and as a Council, we do not wish to do under normal circumstances. However, we're not in normal circumstances, and we're making every endeavour to get all the committees of the Council up and running as quickly as possible. The advice that we've received from the government, particularly due to the social distancing measures that we have to abide by, is that public participation should be suspended temporarily. However, members of the public are invited to write questions into the Cabinet prior to the meeting, and there's a full 7 days that they can do this, and we'll read the questions out. I'm aware as well that there's Councillor Mary Green has written a note to us this afternoon complaining about this and opposing us doing this, but unfortunately we have no option. The only other option that we have in front of us is that every decision becomes a delegated decision through until May 2021, which is what the legislation states. This is clearly something that we will not and do not support. So unfortunately, in the interim, we're going to have to suspend Standing Order 33 in respect to public participation. Does the Monitoring Officer have anything to add on this, Chris?
Thank you, Chair. I think you've summarised the position very well. The legislation was amended by regulation to enable virtual meetings to take place. There has to be a technology solution to support that, and unfortunately the technology solution at the moment precludes public participation in the meeting in this way. Alternative arrangements have been put into place. I do not view the fact that the meeting is held virtually as being anything other than open and transparent. It is being published, so obviously all the debate of the committee and in fact the decision are being publicised to the public and are in the public eye.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Given everything that's been said, are we happy to suspend Standing Order 33? Can I have a show of hands, please? Okay, that's passed. Moving swiftly on, agenda item 5, the Cabinet Forward Plan. Just on this, clearly with everything that's gone on with the pandemic over the last 3 months, a number of issues have had to be moved back on the forward plan because of for obvious reasons. And the other thing that I'll state at this point is there's still a significant chance that some of the dates for some of the meetings will have to change potentially. Additionally, we may have to introduce additional meetings as well. We make no apologies for this. The pandemic has created a severe challenge for every council up and down the country. So we will continue to publish the forward plan every single month as we're required to do, and we'll do our utmost to not change any meetings, or if there are any additional meetings, to give councillors and members of the public the appropriate leading. It's just to warn everyone that we're aware that there's going to be a lot for us to do over the next 6 months, and we will update the forward plan as quickly as possible. So given that, can I have a seconder that the forward plan is accepted, and do we have any questions on it or points?
Seconded, Chair.
Any questions from any members not on committee? Okay. That's noted and accepted. Thank you. So then moving on, agenda item 6, the period 2 performance monitoring report 2019-20. So those of you that will have were at the scrutiny budget and performance panel on Monday, this was delivered then and fully scrutinised by the panel, and we thank them for the time. There were a number of recommendations that came from the panel, which we'll go through in a second. So just remind everybody, although the wording is slightly different, this is the Q4 performance monitoring report for 2019-20, and basically ending the 31st of March, just as we were in full lockdown. Now, I don't intend to go through line by line, but I will raise a couple of issues as I did on Monday, and it's basically reporting by exception. So the executive summary you'll see on the front page is we have 2% of these projects on the corporate plan yet to start, 4% completed, 9% succeeding, 70% on track, 15% off track. Paragraph item 10, very important point to note, but I will read this out in full. The COVID-19 crisis will continue to have a significant operational and financial impact on the council, its partners and the communities we serve. It's now important that the council has a clear plan for how it will recover its services and return to business as usual as quickly as possible. A key focus will be getting core services back up and running efficiently. However, there are some aspects of the response effort that will need to remain in place for an extended period of time, such as the community hubs and the enhanced support for local businesses. Now, for members that are not on Cabinet and members of the public, what we can confirm to you all as well is the Cabinet has met a number of times with the officers over the past 2 months, and we are already in the process of reviewing the corporate priorities for September onwards, because clearly COVID has had a significant impact and there will be some changes in priority for the council. The other thing that obviously clearly concerns us is that of the budget and the monetary impact of COVID. And Councillor Matthew Tomlinson, along with James, the Chief Finance Officer, are working now in detail at updating the Q1 budget report for us to review. And we do have to keep a very, very, very close eye on the financial impact, because I can confirm, regardless of what's said nationally by the government, this council is not receiving full recompense for the potential costs to the council of the COVID crisis. It most potentially is going to hit next year more than this year with the business rates, but we will report it all as quickly as we're aware. Moving on to the actual corporate priorities themselves. In the summary of the report, the corporate priority of excellence, investment and financial sustainability. Basically, the digital improve activity has been an integral part of progressing towards achieving this successful objective. One thing that I will point out, and I'll thank officers for, is that they've had a tremendous effort in getting all members of the council and officers, which is, I think we're upwards of nearly 200 with members and officers, able to all work remotely from home, and they managed to achieve this very, very quickly after lockdown, which is exceptionally pleasing to see. Moving on to within this same portfolio of the 6 key projects reported in the report in front of you, 4 are on track, 1 is complete and 1 is off track, and the one that's off track is the draft asset review, and I'm sure we'll pick up any questions that we may have later on that. Second corporate priority of health, wellbeing and safety. Some of the key objectives that we've and achievements is the continued green links, and the agreement has also been reached with the Citizens Advice Bureau to locate them here at the Civic Centre to provide additional face-to-face advice services within the borough. And I'm absolutely convinced that post-COVID, the Citizens Advice is going to be particularly busy here. So it's pleasing to see that we've managed to co-locate them with us. The Holiday Hunger Scheme distributes food vouchers and offers reassurance to vulnerable families, and that has been a success. And clearly that is noted later, and I think Councillor Titherington has received a question on this, but again, we'll bring you in shortly, Mick. Of the 12 key projects under this priority, 10 are on track, 1 is succeeding, and 1 is off track, which is the mental health 2K. Now, on this, as I mentioned earlier, as part of the refresh of the corporate plan, the mental health of our residents is really some individuals have been really challenged at the moment, and what really concerns is the number of young people that are challenged currently. And so we are having a complete refresh and another look at this, and it will be clearly within our corporate priorities moving forward, where we looked to provide further assistance in that area. Our people and communities moving swiftly on. Community involvement is at the heart of everything that the council undertakes. And I know Councillor Belinsky-Gelder has an update later on in the agenda today on community engagement. The Tempo Time Credit Scheme has been formally launched under the South Ribble Partnership, and the council has approved a revised council tax support scheme for 2021, taking the poorest in our borough out of council tax completely. Of the 9 projects under this priority, 1 has been completed, 2 are succeeding, 5 are on track, and 1 has yet to be started, which is that of the credit union stroke community bank. And then finally, as we work through the corporate priority of place, homes and the environment, the green areas that we highlighted when we were elected for Into the Fields in Trust have been submitted. This was, if you remember, Kingsfield Drive playing fields, the home playing field in Bamber Bridge and Tardy Gate and Lostock Hall. And we'll hopefully get those back as quickly as possible, but these wheels do not run quickly. The Leyland Master Plan is now complete and is out to consultation, and is forming an integral part of the town deal, the £25 million town deal that we're currently going to submit to government in October, we hope. And the final major achievement there is the council wanting to provide quality, secure and affordable homes for the residents of South Ribble. And clearly, Councillor Tomlinson's obviously got mentioned before about the Bamber Bridge scheme and a number of other schemes that we're looking at across the borough. And then also clearly we managed to get a full 30% contribution off the Leyland Test Track when that was consented as well. In this key area, there are 19 projects in total, 1 that's succeeding, 13 are on track and 5 are off track. The ones that are off track are investment and development of the parks and play areas, which we'll come on to later. The protection of the existing green spaces, which you mentioned, it's been submitted, but we haven't yet got those signed off. The master plans for Bamber Bridge and Pevertham, the scoping is slightly delayed, but we already have action in place to bring those forward as per the original programmes. And then there's the review of the projects listed within the City Deal, and that is ongoing. And I know the Chief Executive has, in the last day or 2, been meeting the Chief Executive at Lancashire County Council with a view to getting the meeting of the City Deal executive set up as quickly as possible. And then finally, there's a delay in the private sector stock condition survey. And on the back of the report, we have the resident survey. And again, I'm happy to take any questions we may have on the resident survey as well. And if you remember, that played a part in playing into the key KPIs for the performance of the authority. So a rather detailed update, and I make no apologies for that. Fundamentally, the council's in a good position. As everyone knows, following the governance committee meeting a week or 2 ago, we've faced some significant challenges that were highlighted in the annual governance statement. We've managed to dust down, and the council now is in a particularly strong position in my view. However, that shouldn't take away from the fact that we have some areas where we need to keep our eye on. The projects are slightly off track, but we will bring them back. And through all of this, though, we have to be mindful of the potentially negative impact that COVID-19 is going to have on the authority. And that is why the next quarter performance report is critically important for the authority, and that will be delivered in about 3 months' time, I believe. So given I've said all that, do any members of the Cabinet have any particular questions or points to raise on the performance report? Matthew Tomlinson.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Can I just echo your comments about the
Sorry, my mic just cut out then. Margaret, can you hear me? I can see your face, that's why I'm asking you. She can, yes, thank you. I just wanted to echo the comments of the leader about our staff in IT, who I think had a very challenging time, but worked incredibly hard. And to have all those people able to carry out their work from home over the past few weeks has been really encouraging, and maybe might even be a sign for a new way of working in the future. When it comes to the item that's off track in my portfolio, that's the strategic asset review. It's something I was really keen to see progress when we took control, because I know we haven't done a strategic asset review as a council for quite some time. We have had issues with capacity, which have delayed it somewhat, but I am able to share with Cabinet the fact that I've got a meeting on Monday evening of next week to see how this is progressing. So hopefully we'll have something to report to council very soon. And can I also comment on the resident survey? Yeah, I think this is really useful for us because this is a true resident survey. Again, something we haven't done for a number of years. If people who've been on the council before will recall that we used to measure responses from people who actually visited Gateway rather than from a true representative body. And it's really interesting how our figures mirror those of councils that are judged by the LGA to be most similar to us. So clearly we'd like to see improvements on those, but it is an interesting baseline. And at least now I think it is a baseline that we can be confident in and that we can work towards. And I'll end the comments there. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. Any comments? Councillor Sue Jones.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Okay. Just paragraph 40 on place, home and environment. Can I just say that the climate change strategy has now been complete and has gone to the relevant committee, and we will be working on that in the very near future. And thanks again to the officers, particularly Neil Martin, who's put in so much work into that. So we've moved on from drafting to almost complete.
I think while everybody is laying out accolades for the staff, I think I should just mention and commend all our staff who were involved in setting up the hubs, getting out the food parcels, contacting residents who may be feeling vulnerable. I'm full of admiration for them, and I think that the residents have fully appreciated what's going on. Certainly the residents that I've spoken to have had nothing but praise for our staff and the way that they've conducted themselves through this unprecedented times. So I just to say that, and I can't say it, loudly enough or as often as enough. I think the staff have done a tremendous job, and particularly within my portfolio of the health and well-being and safety, they've gone well above and beyond, and they need to be congratulated.
Thanks, Mick, and I'm absolutely, totally happy to endorse that. The staff's performance over the last 3 months in South Ribble has been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and that is recognised, and it's recognised outside of South Ribble as well. The way they just battened down the hatches and got out there and supported the community was fantastic to see. It really was, and this council is now closer to its community than it's ever been. So, I'm totally happy to endorse that, Mick, well said. Any other questions from members on Cabinet? No? Okay, then let's invite in members from the Conservative Group. Councillor Damien Bradderton.
Hi.
Hi, Damien.
Hi. I'd just like to ask Councillor Sue Jones. I noticed that 12 sites have been identified for the wildflower meadows. I appreciate that we probably can't do them this year, but I'm just wondering, I've not seen any information on which are the sites, where are the 12 sites located? And especially, is any located in Walter Liddell West?
I'm sure there is, Damien. Sue, do you want to answer that?
Can I get back to you on that, Damien? Unless Jennifer is online, I haven't got the specific sites to hand. I don't know whether Jennifer can help with that.
Hiya. I have got them. I can email them to you, but we've definitely got them in your area, definitely.
Excellent. That's good to hear. Could you please email me the full list of where the 12 sites are?
I will do.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Damien. Councillor Alan Ogilvie.
Thank you, Chair. A few of my questions have already been picked up, so thank you for that. I've got a couple of quick ones that are left. I'm looking at page 24, paragraph 19, about the Digital Governance Board. Could you let us know who's in that? And in terms of shared IT systems across the two councils, can you confirm that there are no GDPR implications of having a shared IT system? And my second question is, you mentioned that the Leyland Master Plan was already out for consultation, but the town deal wouldn't be going out until October. I've just got a question there about the coordination between those two plans, because they should be integrated, in my opinion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Alan. I'll bring in the Deputy Chief Executive, Chris Sinnott, to answer the shared service question.
Yes, so the digital board was proposed in the reports that were taken to the full council meeting last September, which proposed the extension of shared services. The digital governance board membership is officers, and the reason for that is that any decisions that they make that need a formal approval need to go back through the shared services joint committee and then to the relevant decision-making body of either council. The focus of the digital governance board in the months since it's been established has been mainly around making sure that officers within shared services have access to the right systems. And you're absolutely right to ask about the GDPR implications. One of the first things that we will be doing before officers get full access to applications is making sure that the information security frameworks are adhered to. So at the moment, as an interim, we will be making sure that they understand the main implications of both of those frameworks, and then in the future we'll be moving towards a single framework which all officers will be able to sign up to.
Thanks, Chris. And then on the second question, I'll just bring in Bill, Councillor Bill Evans. Thank you. Will be switched on in a second.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, Alan. Thanks for your question. The consultation has just finished on the Leyland Master Plan, and we are currently collating all the responses. Work is carrying on the town deal, and what we're doing, following on from those responses, that will go towards all the information for us to submit an application to the government in October. So they are working side by side. They're not working separately. Hope that answers your question. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Evans. Did I see Councillor Colin Clark's name up there next? Coral, yeah. Councillor Colin Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Just like to register the fact that I've missed half of your presentation because the signal kept breaking up, and therefore I couldn't take account of all of what you said. But I've just got a couple of questions which I'd like to ask for clarification. Paragraph 27 on page 25 says the council also asked what percentage of people are satisfied with the leisure and sports facilities in their local area. 53% were surveys were satisfied. First of all, do I assume that the remainder were dissatisfied? And were they asked the question about the council's provision of leisure and sports facilities, or all of the sports facilities in the borough? And the second question I'd like to ask is to do with value for money, which is right at the end. Has the criteria for value for money changed, bearing in mind the emphasis of the current administration on social value? Because to my mind, thinking back the years, the criteria was completely different and really I don't think represents the current situation with the council. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Chris, do you want to come in? Christina, do you want to come in and answer the first question, please?
Yeah, so I'll get you the breakdown of figures. The question is just how satisfied are you with leisure facilities in your area? So it's about the place rather than necessarily the council's provision. And actually on the value for money, again, it is just a question of people's view of does the council deliver value for money? It doesn't define what value for money actually is defined as. It's down to the resident themselves to define that, which has been the case in all of the place surveys and BVPI surveys for the last 10 years or so.
Colin, are you happy with that, or do you want to come back?
Sorry, it's I was muted then. No, that's fine. As is my question. I mean, it's just the way we look at value for money, I think, just to bear that in mind. And I'm sure you would take on board, Chair, the point I'm making.
No, understood, Colin. Thank you. Councillor Margaret Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's on page 29. It's regarding the play areas, and it mentions about Bent Lane having a particular problem. Before that goes ahead, will we have the full costings of how much that is going to actually have to be made through a remedial situation as regards the expenditure on that?
I think the simple answer to that, Margaret, is yes, of course you will.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay, good. Thanks for the questions there. So if I may now just bring into the committee the recommendations from the Scrutiny Budget and Performance Panel from Monday. So they scrutinised in detail the update, and there was 5 recommendations, which, if you bear with me, I'll read out in full because I wish the Cabinet to adopt these recommendations today. Recommendation 1 was that the Scrutiny Budget and Performance Panel welcomes the assurance that the data provided in the report is robust. Recommendation 2 was the Scrutiny Budget Performance Panel commends the Council's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the recovery plans for the future. Number 3, the Scrutiny Budget Performance Panel looks forward to receiving a copy of the ICT Benefit Realisation Plan once finalised. Number 4, the Scrutiny Budget Performance Panel acknowledges that some of the targets within the corporate plan will need to be reviewed in light of COVID-19 and as part of a refresh of the corporate plan in September 2020, including resource allocation. And finally, further information on the costs of the Tempo Time Credits project will be provided to the Scrutiny Budget and Performance Panel. So I'm more than happy to accept those recommendations en bloc, as we always do, and we should. Is that seconded? Thanks, Mick. Any comments from any members on committee? No, I would thank the Scrutiny Committee, as always, for the work that they did, because what we always look to do is to see them as a critical friend, and where they can offer support and improvements, clearly we'll take that on board. So given everything that we have there, Darren, could you just, we're noting the report and including those recommendations from the scrutiny committee. Is everyone in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, quickly moving on. Agenda item 7 is the urgent decisions taken to COVID-19 pandemic. So basically, when the, most members will be aware of this, when the pandemic hit towards the end of March, the government quickly introduced legislation. I think it's the Coronavirus Act was the posh name for it, where it basically gave councils new powers, updated powers, should we say, to ensure that we could still deliver what we need to deliver as a local authority. And fundamentally, the way the Act works in our constitution is that most, if not every decision now, can be delegated to the Chief Executive in consultation with myself and the relevant Cabinet member. Clearly, it is the Cabinet wish every decision to be made in the appropriate way, wherever possible. And hopefully now, members will have noticed that we do have a schedule to start commencing more formal meetings moving ahead. And we do have council, and I'm pleased to say we have a council meeting as planned in July. One thing that we do is we do ask that Democratic Services publish every single week all urgent decisions, which happens normally on a Thursday or a Friday, and members do get, and the chairman of the scrutiny committee has to sign off on every urgent decision that he is satisfied of its urgency, which is exactly in line again with the constitution. So what we've detailed in this paper is a number of urgent decisions that we've had to make, and clearly the background papers to all of these are available to any member that wishes to see them, and as long as they're not restricted, then available to members of the public online as well. So given that, do any members of the Cabinet have any questions to ask about any of the specific urgent decisions that we've had to make? No? Any members not in Cabinet? No? Okay, so that report's noted. So agenda item 8, the implementation of the community involvement recommendations. Councillor Aniela.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I would like to apologise because you can't see me speaking, and I know that certain councillors prefer to lip read if they can't, if they can't hear properly. So there's nothing I can do about it, I'm afraid. I've tried to turn my camera on, I've turned it on and off, and it doesn't work.
Sorry, just so everyone's aware, we've got 1 or 2 connectivity issues that we're just resolving now with these new iPads, which hopefully you'll all be able to see Aniela's face in a second.
Okay. I'll speak as clearly and as loudly as I can. So this is regarding the Community Involvement Implementation Plan. 12 months ago, we began a strategic review of community involvement, which included the My Neighbourhoods. The review was completed by a cross-party working group to ensure a political consensus across South Ribble. The review took 3 months, and many of the actions came out of the review, including potential changes to the existing My Neighbourhoods and implementation of lots of new and exciting projects. Just to summarise a few. As proposed in the review, the Council has now become an affiliated member of the Cooperative Council Innovation Network, which means we have access to best practice examples from all over the UK on how to deal with holiday hunger, how to best implement a youth council and youth mayor, as well as other projects around the economy. Hopefully in the future we'll become an accredited cooperative council looking to promote cooperative values, self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality, equity and solidarity. Another outcome of the strategic review was to introduce a community involvement toolkit, which hopefully all departments will use to ensure full involvement with our local communities in decision making. The Word and Hall consultation was an excellent example, with over 600 people contributing to the findings, online, via letter and in person. The final project I'd like to mention is the implementation of a youth council and youth mayor and debate clubs to engage younger people in the democratic process and encourage them to see themselves as part of a decision-making process as opposed to outside of the democratic machinery. Moving on to the review of the My Neighbourhood specifically, a large part of the review was looking extensively at the My Neighbourhood's model of community involvement. Overall, it was discussed many times that South Ribble is a diverse borough and the same model may not necessarily suit all areas of the borough equally. Therefore, it was forwarded by the cross-party working group and supported by the Cabinet that each area should be invited to self-determine the model of involvement which best suits their area. The two key points to mention here. First, the chair of each neighbourhood forum were given the opportunity to discuss with members which version of engagement they'd like to adopt in their area. I'd like to make this very clear. This is not a top-down reorganisation, but rather a grassroots approach to decision-making, allowing each area to bring forward their own ideas for the best way of working for them. Any alterations will be considered both constitutionally and taken to the Governance Committee. Each area will have 12 months to trial and then evaluate their preferred models. Hence, a letter was sent out to each chair and information collected about how to begin was about to begin in March. But due to the coronavirus crisis, the next step was not able to take place, which leads me nicely onto my second point. Due to the coronavirus and the fantastic response from the community, as well as the success of the South Ribble Together hub, we've had an opportunity to re-look at the My Neighbourhood priorities again. Last week, I met with all the chairs of the neighbourhood forums virtually. We discussed in great detail the options which were available and are now available. I'm extremely pleased to say that all the chairs were seriously considering adopting the hub approach in each of the areas. This means greater partnership working across South Ribble and the potential of an officer based geographically out in each area, a satellite officer. Discussions are taking place around the details, but it would ultimately mean a rebranding of the neighbourhood forums into hubs. The officer would be able to act as an on-the-ground conduit between the community and the council, alerting us to the issues and priorities in each area. In addition, the chairs in each area were happy to expand the invitations of the planning meeting to include, wherever appropriate, parish council chairs, the police, clinical commissioning groups, community centre partners and In Bloom committee members, for example, capitalising on the South Ribble Together hub approach and positive response we've had from our communities throughout the pandemic. In addition to the rebranding and expansion, smaller changes are set to be made to the Constitution through governance and the way each neighbourhood forum can sign off spending, making it easier and allowing greater autonomy to chairs and vice chairs. The budget in March also established a central pot of money, £25,000, which each neighbourhood forum area may bid into to support larger projects in their areas. Finally, in terms of neighbourhood forum projects, there will no longer be an arbitrary 10 projects to sign up to. Each year, the neighbourhood forum, along with their communities, may decide their priorities and determine whether they would like a few large projects or lots of smaller projects, allowing bespoke and appropriate choices to each area. Finally, I'd like to reiterate that Council will continue to support any areas of the borough which would like to parish, which is one of the outcomes of the strategic review. Hopefully now we can move forward with some speed. All the virtual links are established. However, I accept that virtual meetings are not conducive to community involvement and do not suit everyone. And I'm happy to meet in person wherever necessary to ensure the process continues swiftly and productively. I'd like to thank all the chairs and the officers which have persevered throughout this difficult time. Today, I'm commending the implementation plan to Cabinet and asking Cabinet to approve the criteria set out for evaluation in 12 months' time. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Aniela. A very detailed update, which is clearly pleasing to see. And again, thanks for that. I think, as you say, this was one of the particular policy areas that we had that just ground to an almost instant halt with COVID. We were literally just in the midst of implementing the recommendations. So it's good to see that by June we've got this back on board, and thank you for taking all the time that you did last week and this week in speaking to all the individual chairs. And it is really positive to hear that this issue surrounding the engagement with the community hubs, you know, we've got to grasp it now. We've got to grasp it. As far as I'm concerned, the engagement we've got with our community has never been better, and the council is seen in such a positive vibe for what it has done over the last 3 or 4 months. We must grasp that and really get out there to the community, which is at the heart of everything that you're promoting anyway, isn't it? So, which is good. And also, again, the engagement that we've had with the parish councils was also very pleasing. And again, I know that we have another meeting soon, I believe, with all the chairs again. And again, they've actually offered their assistance. They're not just coming to the meeting, they're actually physically offering their assistance for how we can engage with them and engage with the community. So any questions from any members on Cabinet? Good. Any questions from members not on Cabinet? Councillor Alan Ogilvie.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Aniela, for that brief overview. I've got one question on page 56, box 10, about the governance arrangements for spending within the My Neighbourhood forums. Is going to be, or if I'm reading this correctly, sign-off will be by the Chair and Vice Chair. Bearing in mind the make-up across the political parties, across the various neighbourhood forums, a number of these forums, the Chair and Vice Chair will be from effectively the current administration. There will be no representation on those sign-offs from the largest party on the council, i.e. the Conservatives. Is that considered to be a democratic arrangement? Thank you.
In my view, Alan, absolutely. It's for each individual community forum, community hub, to vote, and whatever the political makeup of that hub is a reflection of the results of the election. It's not proportional representation per se anymore, is it? Unless that's what you're asking for. But no, the elected Chair and Vice Chair is appointed by Council, which is fully democratic. So that's how it is. Any other questions, Councillor Colin Clark?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions. On page 54, there's a survey of residents being undertaken. I'm not clear what the specific questions that are being asked. Is it possible for members to be acquainted with those questions? And on page 57, the grant scheme to be developed, it says a report on the scheme, criteria and governance arrangements will be prepared for Cabinet to agree in June 2020. Well, we're here now. That isn't there. Presumably something is going to be prepared and it's going to go to governance for approval as well. Thank you.
So, but before I bring Aniela in, Colin, clearly any changes to the council's constitution that proposed will go through the governance committee, and then on the resident survey, Aniela, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, I can hear myself. Yes, Paul's answered the first question. The grant scheme, that is something that needs to be reconsidered because we have to decide how. I think there's going to be 2 rounds every year. There's going to be 2 rounds every year for people to apply to that grant for £25,000. And all of that is going to go through governance, and it's currently being drafted.
Thanks, Daniela. Any other questions, Coral? No.
Yeah,
Okay, Daniela,
you didn't get an answer to my first question there.
What was that, Colin? Just remind me.
Just get for members to be acquainted with the questions that are being asked in their communities. I don't think we're all clear on what the questions are.
It's Colin. It's if you look back on the previous agenda item, it's the resident survey that's actually completed now. That's been done. So we'll send you a copy through, but it's already been done, and the questions are in there, and it follows the LGA format for district councils of our size.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Any other questions? No. Okay, Aniela, can you just reconfirm, please, the recommendations for us to consider?
Yeah, thank you. The Cabinet notes the implementation plan from the Strategic Review of Community Involvement, including My Neighbourhoods. And the second part is Cabinet approves the criteria to be used in evaluating the success of My Neighbourhood model trials in each of the 5 areas over the next 12 months.
Okay, that's proposed. Do we have a seconder? Matthew, thank you. All in favour? That's passed unanimously for those that can't see us all voting. Thank you. Thanks, Daniela. Agenda item 9. Unfortunately, we have some confidential matters to deal with now, and so I'm asked to exclude the press and public. Although the press and public aren't here, they can dial in remotely. So we're going to have a slight pause. Sorry, I've got to go to the vote first. When we vote on this, if this is voted through, then there'll be a slight pause for 2 or 3 minutes whilst the officers allow members access, but not public access via YouTube. So I never like doing this, but I will propose for the exclusion of the press and public. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Mick. And all those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. So I do thank members of the public that have dialed in, and the decisions that we make on the next 2 agenda items will be published in due course anyway. Thank you.